When I pulled you out of the Hope, I never imagined you'd turn me over to the board. Planting a bug in my terminal? That's low. We could have saved this colony, you know. That was always the plan. I revive you, you do as I say. I tell you to go there, get me this, shoot that, and you do as I say. If you'd just listened to me, we could have rescued everyone on the Hope. We could have been the saviors of Halcyon. But you didn't listen. No one in this damn colony ever listens. Ha! No, of course not. You're the board's lackey now. And isn't that just paying dividends? The thought of someone as brilliant as you working for that miserable gang of odious bureaucrats. Merciful law. It's downright unfair. What did they tempt you with, Power? Money? One of those fancy reclining chairs? Of course you do. You and your iron will. You've always been driven by powerful convictions. Once you set your mind to something, you are impervious to arguments. This is how the board operates. It's not enough that they should win. They must see me fail. Well, I haven't failed, do you hear me? I still have one last gambit. I've got Adjutant Akande here with me, and I'm going to put a bullet through her eye. No, it won't change anything. We're plunging headlong into oblivion now, you and I. Killing Akande won't save us, but it will feel incredibly good. If you insist on interfering, I will be forced to kill you, and I don't want that. I can't imagine we've got anything left to say. How would you know? You didn't spend your entire life working on this problem. I'm not wrong, damn it! If only you'd listened to me, we might have saved this colony. All we had to do was revive a few people on the Hope. Scientists, engineers, brilliant minds like you and I. If we can't think of a solution, they will. I don't know what else I can do. I had to believe a solution was possible. My life's work has been an exercise in futility. The only honorable way to end it is to go down fighting. So you found out. I suppose it's not enough that you ruin my every plan. You must also humiliate me by reminding me of my failures. Yes, I've killed people. Is that what you wanted to hear? I experimented on dozens of the Hope's colonists. Every last one of them died in agony. Yes, that's what I told myself. If I'd only kept trying, if I'd only kept experimenting, I'd discover the secret to reviving the Hope's colonists. I didn't care about the cost. I didn't question the morality of my actions. What are the deaths of a few dozen colonists weighed against the lives of hundreds of thousands? I can't undo the past. So many colonists died at my hands, just so I could revive you. Reviving you was a sin. I don't deserve to go on living in the world I helped ruin. Enough! I can't take any more of this. I know what you're trying to do, torturing me with your words, reminding me of all my failures. Yes, I failed. There, I've said it. I'm a failure. I failed the colony. I failed myself. I failed you. Congratulations. You've broken me. Does that put a smile on your face, you monster? The only thing I've ever wanted was your help. It's too late to help me now. The only thing left for you to do Please forgive me. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all that I've done, and for what I'm about to do. So am I. I'm sorry about all this. I'm sorry about everything. It's just, I just wish we could have... Never mind. It doesn't matter.
Thank the law you're here. That madman was out of control. At least Wells did you the courtesy of saving you a bullet. I'll have one of my soldiers toss his body out on the surface. And what about you? You aren't hurt, I hope. I'm not hurt. Well, except for my pride. I can't believe that lunatic got the better of me. You've put down the worst riot in our history, rid the colony of a dangerous madman, and saved my life. The board owes you a tremendous debt. We don't have a moment to lose. We're gonna have to work together to save Halcyon, because the situation is far worse than you imagined. What I'm about to tell you must never leave this room, under any circumstances. We've lost all contact with Earth. It's been 3 years since we've received a message. We've had no contact, no signals, nothing. Earth has gone dark. 2 years ago, the Earth Directorate's frigate disappeared en route to Earth. We don't know if they ever made it. We don't know if there's an Earth to go back to.
They haven't exactly been hands-on around here anyway. So there's one less rubber stamp to worry about.
Earth was more than just some distant colonial authority, Dr. Fenhill. Earth was our lifeline. And now, we've been cut loose.
You mean we're all alone out here? Really alone?
You sound frightened, Miss Holcomb. You should be. Fear sharpens the mind. We're alone, Captain. That's all I know for certain. Whatever happens to this colony, we're going to have to deal with it on our own. Returning to Earth is not an option. Yes, we do have a long road ahead of us. But I have faith in you. The service you've done for this colony is nothing short of extraordinary. You're the reason I'm still standing here today. The board will survive because of you. And as the board goes, so goes Halcyon. It's time we carried out the program. I trust I can count on your support, Captain. I'm pleased to hear that. The program is too important to hand over to the board's bureaucrats. That's why I'd like you to take the helm. I'll see to it that the Lifetime Employment Program operates under your supervision. We'll work together to save this colony. We're on our own now. Earth isn't coming to save us, so we're going to have to save ourselves.
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The riots in Tartarus ended in a total victory for the board. Without any significant threats to challenge their power, the board asserted their control over the colony. The Lifetime Employment Program began immediately, and the people of Halcyon did exactly what they were expected to do. They obeyed. Sophia Akande converted the labyrinth from a prison to a processing center. She jettisoned the original colonists out of the Hope and transformed the ship into a massive storage facility. One by one, the workers of Halcyon surrendered themselves to the program. They arrived with their families and their friends, their colleagues and their neighbors, and then, one by one, they marched into their stasis chambers. As the workers of Halcyon slept in their hibernation chambers, their settlements became ghost towns, left behind by the board to be reclaimed by nature. Only Byzantium remained, a shining beacon of civilization in an otherwise abandoned colony. The people of Byzantium spent the rest of their days gorging themselves on their stockpile of resources. As for the workers of Halcyon, they never felt the effects of the collapse. They never felt anything at all. As the board began to enact the Lifetime Employment Program, Sanjar and Zora brought another option to the townships of Terra 2. Many workers joined MSI, bolstering Sanjar's ranks and giving Zora more forces to work with. Though none of Sanjar's policies spread to Byzantium, many smaller townships that might otherwise have been shuttered thrived under his and Zora's combined leadership. Consumed by paranoia, Lilia Hagen took Sublight Salvage in a controversial direction, openly accusing board officials of an extraterrestrial conspiracy. One day, an accident at the Groundbreaker's docking bay silenced her forever. Time would tell if her replacement could keep the Sublight family together. Over the years, the ruins of Edgewater caused irreversible environmental damage to the landscape of Emerald Vale, owing largely to the presence of toxic compounds in the town's building materials. As for Edgewater's former workers, their remains provided a source of nourishment for the region's fauna, leading to an explosion in the sprat population. While the Groundbreaker remained mechanically stable, the changing times forced Junlei Tennyson to make some difficult calls on behalf of her community. The work of maintaining independence was an uphill climb, and she found herself caving to bad faith compromises with the board. Time will tell if the Groundbreaker can endure. As smaller settlements were swallowed up and their workers drafted into the Lifetime Employment Program, Byzantium continued to thrive. While its citizens lived in decadence and extravagance, a small cadre of scientists worked to solve the nutrition crisis that threatened Halcyon. No one else much noticed the townships that disappeared from the map, or the luxuries that slowly lost their luster year by year. The truth about Rizzo Spectrum Brown was buried in the abandoned ruins of their old distillery. The company designed a new drink using the rancid harvests from the old purpleberry orchards and a dangerous amount of brown food coloring. This second launch of Spectrum Brown was sold in Byzantium at an exorbitant price. It was incredibly popular. The death of her sister left Ruth Bellamy disillusioned. She eventually lost interest in Byzantine culture and spent more and more time alone with her memories of Belinda. She only emerged out of isolation to speak out against the Lifetime Employment Program. Her opinions earned the contempt of the elite. She was last seen departing from Byzantium in a private craft. No one has heard from her since. The Lifetime Employment Program led to a boom in the Aetherwave industry as more and more Byzantines demanded entertainment. With the absence of Ruth Bellamy, the question on everyone's mind was, who could be the next Halcyon Helen? Burbage 3001's performance during the investigation on Eridanos made it the ideal contender for Helen's replacement. Some years later, After Odeon Pictures released the brand new Burbage 3002 model, it was found mysteriously destroyed by a plasma weapon. Cedric Kincannon did not take kindly to losing the vast majority of his subordinates to hibernation. Despite the board seriously entertaining the idea of offering Sublight a seat, Cedric was nowhere to be found. Any theories that he left Halcyon entirely to begin a new life on some undiscovered asteroid with his former secretary Eileen are, of course, just theories. With the board's newly renewed grip on its seat of power, the public's increased interest in the Aetherwave industry, and the death of his primary acting rival, Spencer Woolrich expected to return to the limelight as he so rightfully deserved. Much to his chagrin, however, his roles remained few, and quickly grew fewer. As his fall from stardom solidified, Woolrich found himself reassigned to menial labor and placed in suspended animation to support the Lifetime Employment Program. It seemed that as much as he had resented her, Halcyon Helen had been all that separated Spencer from complete irrelevancy. Tossball in Halcyon changed dramatically after the Lifetime Improvement Program. With roughly half of the league's players in hibernation, existing teams were forced to merge. The upheaval caused a great deal of infighting between longtime rivals who found themselves on the same side of the tossball hump. This, in turn, led to a pronounced increase of knives during play, and a period in tossball's history known as the blood loss across the toss. Bertie Holcomb groused in private about the general fictation of tossball spectators. Once, enraged by the sight of a Byzantine seated in the front row with a fancy drink, Bertie leapt over the dividing wall to the stands, seized the offending beverage, and stabbed the man in the hand with its tiny umbrella garnish. New laws against this infraction were created after the game. Bertie Holcomb would live forever in the annals of tossball history as the first player to have received a penalty for audience participation. With the situation in Eridanos taken care of, and with Byzantium's sphere of influence rapidly expanding, attention on the Prophet of Profitability's productivity seminars multiplied 100-fold. High-rungers all over Halcyon flocked to Eridanos and its newly opened Productivity Expansion Reserve. The Prophet herself remained at the forefront of her discipline until a violent encounter with a rival spy. Actually, no more than a curious fan saw her fade into the background for the remainder of her days. Your influence shifted Ellie's perspective. She finally admitted, albeit grudgingly, that she just might need other people. Sometimes. With a steady income from the life insurance payouts, she was finally able to afford a ship of her own. She hired a small crew and flew supply missions to communities on the fringe. Some of them were even legal. As the board reasserted control over Halcyon, Felix came to realize that his life as an upstart rebel had come to an end. The board's victory crushed any hope for a grand revolution across Halcyon. And so Felix, once again, found himself without a purpose in life. And so, disillusioned with his former boss and with nowhere left to go, Felix left his crew without saying goodbye. He was never heard from again. As a reward for his part in her courageous rescue, the adjutant invited the vicar known as Max to become one of the leaders of the Order of Scientific Inquiry. But Max had no interest in serving any organization, let alone the OSI, which he knew would never tolerate his heretical theories. Instead, he attempted to minister to the people of Byzantium. They rejected his ideas, being far too satisfied with their own material comforts. Disillusioned, Max gave up and left the city. He was never heard from again. Though Parvati eventually grew comfortable aboard the Unreliable, she never quite came out of her shell. She seemed to prefer the company of Ada to the crew, and she could often be found neck-deep in cables and grease, telling Ada funny stories from her childhood. As the board began to roll out their lifetime employment program, Parvati was plagued by dreams of freezing to death. She began taking increasingly longer shore leaves, and she eventually disappeared from the Unreliable entirely. The board never knew what became of her, and under the adjutant's orders, they never tried to find out. Parvati was afforded a measure of peace and left to her own devices. Nyoka returned to Monarch to take another crack at making a permanent life for herself. She formed the Charon Group, a mercenary outfit of ragtag survivalists and wilderness experts. Anyone in need of a guide or just looking to throw back a beer and swap stories could find her camping on the trail or clearing an infestation. The SAM unit that accompanied you spread awareness of the product line's superior sanitation and maintenance capabilities across what was left of the colony. This led to a boost in SAM unit sales. Did you know that SAM units are the longest-lasting, toughest-acting cleaning solution in Halcyon? Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. Adjutant Sophia Akande was instrumental in executing the Lifetime Employment Program. While the rest of Byzantium celebrated, Sophia returned to work by partnering with you. The two of you worked hard to ensure the Lifetime Employment Program ran smoothly. With Halcyon's workers suspended in a state of hibernation, starvation and chaos are problems of the past. The Lifetime Employment Program succeeded in its goals, but that success came at a price. The Halcyon of today is nothing at all like the colony of yesteryear. Power remains concentrated in Byzantium, but all the colony's resources serve the lifestyle of the elite, thereby transforming Halcyon into one of the smallest and most exclusive colonies in the system. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? After the riots on Tartarus came to an end, you threw in your support with Sophia Akande. While Akande administered the board herself, you oversaw the Lifetime Employment Program, stamping out corruption and negligence. Under your leadership, the program ran smoothly. Halcyon's workers were treated with a modicum of dignity. Your involvement kept the board honest and allowed the board scientists to work without the meddling of bureaucracy. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.